Good day! In today's lesson, we will be dealing with verbal and non-verbal communication. But before that, I want you to do these activities. Try to sing happy birthday with the saddest face. Then recite these lines in the angriest manner. How do I love you? Let me count the ways. I love you to the depth and breadth and height. My soul can reach when feeling out of sight. Okay, very good. In this activity, do you find it hard to accomplish? Of course, yes, because what is written is not appropriate to the emotion or expression that I have given. So it has something to do with the verbal and non-verbal communication. So what is a verbal communication? Verbal communication means communication using words. So speaking is a type of verbal communication. So there are elements for verbal communication. First is pause. So a speaker takes pauses between utterances in order to allow the listeners to process what the speaker said. So that is the purpose why speakers do some pauses. Next, a speaker may pause for longer than usual for an important utterance in order to produce emphasis by waiting for the utterance to sink in among his listeners. A pause can also be a signal to the audience that he or she is waiting for some indication from listeners as to whether or not they understood what was said. Another element of verbal communication is the loudness or softness. So, a speaker must know when to raise or lower his or her voice. In some cultures, speaking loud is appropriate in emphasizing a point. The same thing that we do. When they emphasize something, we tend to speak loud or raise our voice. Example, when your mother is scolding you for being lazy, she will emphasize that you should do household chores to be productive. So here, usually she will speak loudly. There are also some cultures wherein speaking softly shows that the speaker is emphasizing a point. So if you are not knowledgeable enough to other cultures, there might be a communication breakdown. So aside from that, other emotions can be also expressed using the loudness and softness of the voice. Example, using a soft voice can be a speaker's way of showing that what is being expressed is something of intimacy or heartfelt. Next, we have the rhythm. It refers to the speed and flow of a speaker's utterances. So this is used as a powerful tool to engage listeners. So a good rhythm catches and holds the attention of the listener. So if you happen to know Inka Magnaye, she has a good rhythm. We also have here a sing-song tone or a manner of speaking involving alternating rising and lowering of pitch can indicate that the speaker is trying to entertain his or her listeners or to try to arouse a particular emotion. And also you have to remember that the rhythm employed be appropriate to the content of the message and context in which the speaker delivers a speech or participates in a discussion. Example, a sing-song rhythm is not acceptable in academic discussion because academic discussion is intended to be devoid of emotion. Next are the repetition and rephrasing. So repetition is the repeating the words or statements already said. So the speaker will do well to repeat his or her utterances, especially if the content is difficult to understand. On the other hand, rephrase is to restate again the message using other words without changing the meaning of the statement. Example, the original statement is, he has tons of stuff to throw away. So to paraphrase that, you can say, he needs to get rid of a lot of junk. So by doing that, it's easier to comprehend by your listener or audience. Another example, the original statement, for example, is symptoms of influenza include fever and nasal congestion. To paraphrase that, you can say a stuffy nose and elevated temperature are signs you may have the flu. Next is the tone. It often shows the attitude of the speaker toward the topic or listener. Example, when you say, I love your dress, where did you buy it? It's like our doormat. So here, because of the sarcastic tone, it only shows the audience your attitude of being mean or that you are mocking someone. And also you have to remember that listeners certainly do not appreciate an insolent or impolite tone. So the tone of the voice must be matched with other elements of the communication situation, including the relationship between the communication participants. So how are you related to your audience or listeners? Next is the topic. So if the topic pertains to the academic, the tone of your voice must be objective. Next is the degree of formality. If you are in a formal setting, your tone must be formal as well and serious. And last, the emotions associated with the situation or topic. If you are going to give a funeral speech, the emotion there is sad. Thus, your tone must match to that setting. So you must have a sad tone as well. Another element is the appropriate forms of the language. The technical term for the form of language used is register. So register is the range of tones in the human voice produced by a particular vibratory pattern of the vocal folds. So for example, there are different registers for speaking in a showbiz talk show, in a funeral, in an academic forum, in a casual conversation, and etc. So for example, Mike Enriquez, a known radio announcer and TV broadcaster, so he has unique register. Another example is Chris Aquino, so something like that. Next is the non-verbal communication. It involves expressing oneself without the use of words. So we can use another way to express what we want to express. So we can express nonverbal communication using these elements. So the first one is the gestures, a movement of the part of the body, especially a hand or the head to express an idea or meaning. So common gestures include waving, pointing, and using fingers to indicate numeric amounts and so on. So a wave of the hand has a specific meaning. It can be hello or goodbye. A forefinger and a thumb touching to form a circle have the meaning K. Another example. So when a speaker describes something as being tall, the speaker may raise his or her hand to add emphasis to what is being spoken. So when you say tall, you can use this one. Unlike facial expressions, interpretations of some gestures also differ across cultures. So for example, in Europe, raising thumb is used to convey that someone has done something excellent. Bangladesh, the same gesture means something idiotic. Another example, when a speaker wishes to show that he or she feels strongly about what is being said, the speaker may show a clenched fist. And wide arm gestures may send the message that the speaker is discussing a broad or general topic.
Another element is the eye contact, which means to look at the eye of your audience or listener. When a person maintains eye contact with his or her listeners, he or she gives the impression of being serious about what is being discussed. Moreover, this will also help the speaker know if the listener is interested to what the speaker is saying, and will also prevent the listener to do unnecessary things during the delivery of the message. And if you lack eye contact, this would only mean that you, as a speaker, is unsure of what to say, or you forgot what to say, and worse, it could give an expression that the speaker is inventing a falsehood in speaking to his listeners. Another element is the posture. It is the position in which you hold your body while standing, sitting, or lying down. As you can see in the picture, you must have a balanced, upright posture and avoid making a forward head and flat back as you can see in the left picture. And must avoid as well the picture on the right side. A good posture is beneficial not only for health reasons but also for relating to others when speaking. If you have a poor posture, just like the picture on the left side, you will give an impression to your audience that you are lazy to speak, unprepared, and not confident enough. Next is the facial expression. These are used by humans to convey various types of meaning in various contexts. You, as a speaker, must be able to use facial expressions appropriate for your topic. If the topic is informal, non academic, or something less serious, you may use smiling, laughing, and other facial expressions that can help develop rapport with an audience. If the topic is sad, of course, your facial expression should be sad as well. Next element is the proxemics. It is the use of space in communication, or the distance you may have when talking to your listener or audience. So in our picture, we have here the standard distance when you are talking to someone who is dear to you, which is 0 to 50 centimeter. Example of this intimate distance are two people hugging, holding hands, or standing side by side. Those who are not comfortable with someone who approaches them in the intimate distance or zone will experience a great deal of social discomfort or awkwardness. If you will talk with your friends, you may use the personal or friend zone or distance, which should be zero point 0.5 to 1 meter. And if you're going to talk to people you know but you are not close with, or to strangers, you may use the distance 1 to 4 meter. And if you will speak in public, you must use the distance 4 meter or more. Next is the sensitivity to listeners' reaction. A speaker must be sensitive to the reaction of his or her listeners. After hearing what you said and the listener's reaction is he or she frowns, it only means that he or she disagrees with your statement or is offended by what you said. In that case, you as a speaker must do ways to address the listener's feedback. For example, you may apologize or rephrase what you said in a way that will not offend your listeners. Now, before we end this discussion, let's read this first. A man once decided to do a social experiment. He tried to say things while using gestures and facial expressions that did not match what he was saying. When an acquaintance offered him some cookies, he said, yes, while frowning and pushing his palms forward. When someone on the road asked him if a certain place was still far away, he said it was already near, but moved his hands away from each other. As you can see here, the verbal and nonverbal communication used don't match what is really the intended meaning. The things we say can be better clarified and enhanced when we use the proper combination of verbal and nonverbal communication. So that's the end of our discussion for today. Thank you.